All right, so what are those steps to financial freedom? I've kind of broken them up in 5 steps that you probably won't hear anywhere else, but I guarantee you when you find these out, these are ones that have actually proven to work not just for me twice by the time I was 39 years old, but also has worked for many of our other clients as well, including early retirement. Not just waiting until your 60s and 70s, but actually doing it now. I want to dive into those steps with you right now. All right, so let's talk about those 5 steps. Like, how do we actually get these steps to financial freedom? Now, I used to think the steps to financial freedom, when I was a financial advisor, was always you just start saving money, right? Pack it away in these retirement accounts and your IRAs and 401ks and Roth IRAs and things like that. You just keep plugging money away and hopefully, cross our fingers, the market is just right and I don't sound so constipated, then it works out, right? The problem is this, is that 99% of the time, it doesn't work out. I'll tell you this, the stats are this. Fidelity has 24 million account holders with 401ks. Did you know that only about 500,000 of those people have $1 million? That means about 2% of people actually got $1 million. But here's the problem. If you want to live off that retirement income, and assuming you're over the age of 60, because if you try to pull out beforehand, you get slapped with a 10% penalty and then taxes, and that sucks. And so if you're over the age of 60, you're only supposed to pull out 3%. So if you have $1 million, you're living on $30,000 a year. Is that the kind of life you were dreaming of in retirement? Probably not. So the vast majority of people don't even have really above $2-3 million that most people would want as a lifestyle. They don't have that. And so as a result, you're seeing less than, not just 2%, but less than 1%. This is why 35% of people polled that had over $1 million in their IRAs and 401ks told Transamerica in a survey, they said it'll quote unquote take a miracle to be able to retire. They don't even think it's possible. They think it'll take a miracle to be able to retire. That's not including the other percentage of people that said, I hope it works. I hope it does, right? They're living on hopium. No, like very few people actually think they can make it work for financial freedom. So those steps of financial freedom, which is, save as early as possible, save as much as possible, save for as long as possible, because you got to have the compounding interest, the 8th wonder of the world. And then you put it in there, and then you take out as little as possible. Does that sound like freedom to you? That sounds like bondage your whole life, delaying your life until someday, and then you have to live on as little as possible, so then you really don't get to really live your life someday after all. This is what's happened to so many people. Tens of millions of people happen to them all the time. They say there's a retirement crisis in the country. They blame people for not saving enough. That's not the case. You've been probably saving enough. Now, maybe you haven't started yet, but for those of you that have been saving, you know who you are. You know you've been saving a lot. Maybe you've been saving 10, 20% of your income, and yet you're running the numbers. And if you're really being honest with those numbers, saying that you're not earning 12% because you don't make that much in the market, you're earning 8% if you're lucky, and you start throwing in like higher inflation rates than 3%, you start to realize, I'm not going to get there. There is a solution. So here's what's been proven to work. It worked for me. It's worked for our clients over and over and over again. And many of our clients actually get to financial freedom in less than 10 years. I'm not guaranteeing you that you're going to do it in less than 10 years because I don't know where you're starting from. For our clients, they usually start with at least a little bit of money to start investing to be able to do that. If you're starting from scratch, it might take 15, 20 years. Just depends. But this has been the system that's been proven to work time and time again with people I've worked with over the last really 20 years when I quit being a financial advisor and actually was able to retire myself almost 20 years ago. Step number 1 is that launch pad, right? If you want to get to financial freedom, first you got to define what Z is, right? Or Z for our neighbors up north in Canada, right? Whatever point Z is, like what is that end point? What does that look like for you? Most of our people usually say, here's the amount of monthly income I want or annual income that I want in today's dollars. We start there, right? So we want to see what that point Z is, that end point. But then you got to know where point A is. Where are we starting from? How much money do we have to work with? I tell people a lot of times is that, you got to find out where you can get liquid, right? Before you can get the money out. I always tell people, get lean, get liquid, get out. Track your money, make sure you're a wise steward of your money by getting lean, not being cheap, not living on rice and beans. Thanks, Dave Ramsey, for that piece of crap advice. Side note here, I actually listened to the radio program back in the day of Dave Ramsey. Did you know there was a woman that called up saying that she literally lived on rice and beans? This was live, I heard it. She was living on rice and beans for 3 years to pay off her debt. And he laughed at her. He's like, whoa, why are you living on rice and beans? She's like, well, you say live on rice and beans until you pay off all your debt. And she's like, I'm almost there, but I'm just not feeling good because I'm just not there yet. He's like, living on rice and beans, that's just a figure of speech. I mean, get the lettuce, get the tomatoes too. And then for 5 seconds, dead air time. And then she said, oh, well, I was living on rice and beans. I did that. Guys, stop listening to that crappy advice. You don't have to be lean forever, right? So be sure you're not just getting lean, right? You're actually like being a wise steward. You're watching your money, but you put money in places, you spend money on things that actually you prioritize, that are important to you. Then we get liquid. Where do we get liquid? Where do you find money? Find money in places like savings accounts. Money markets. It could be even life insurance. There's a lot of people that have like whole life, universal life policies with cash in them. They didn't realize they didn't have to just lock it away and set it there till retirement. You can get that money out now. That also applies to old 401ks, not your current company 401k. It's locked up. It's in prison if you have it there. But old 401ks or IRAs, Roth IRAs, you can get that money out and do things with. Mutual funds, you got stocks, bonds, crypto, whatever it might be. Do you have real estate properties? Do you have your own house? Do you have a lot of equity in it? Is that equity not paying you any money? Do you have money coming from rentals, but is it as good as it should be? Do you know that just yesterday, this is back in February of 2025, but just yesterday I was looking at the guy's situation. He had $8 million of equity in his real estate. He was a real estate investor, but he was earning $18,000 a month. Now, $18,000 a month might sound awesome, right? But for $8 million of equity, that's crappy, right? It's a scrappy kind of there, because $18,000 a month, that's like a little over $200,000 a year, but out of $8 million, think about it. If you had $8 million and you earned even just 5% a year, you make $400,000 a year. This guy is making 2.5% on his money. I was like, oh my gosh, we could do so much better there. In fact, we had a passive income calculator on moneyripples.com. Feel free to check that out, by the way. He put it in. His number came in over $500,000 a year he could create in the next 12 months if he just moved money around and did stuff, got his money liquid. Even meant he had to liquidate some of those crappy properties. Guarantee they're in California. Anything on the West Coast, almost every time we're like, sell it, get rid of that crap, buy out East, you'll find way better deals, right? Which is actually literally what I told him. And so anyways, like that's the money you can use to get it out and invest it. So that's what we do. That first step is that launch pad, is where are you? What's available? What's liquid? And then it goes into step 2, is explore the opportunities. What's available to you? A lot of our clients realize that they can actually just go and see the people that we invest with, right? We never give investment advice. We're not investment advisors, but we'll tell people like, hey, here's people we've used. Here's people our clients have used. These people seem to have a really good track record. They've actually been very good in keeping their integrity intact, and they're very good operators, are very good at doing this stuff. Here's some opportunities that works. And here's the ones that work with your goals. Because some people have shorter term goals, sometimes have long-term goals. Maybe they want to just grow their money. Some want to actually have cash flow coming in today. There's different opportunities for different things. So we start exploring those different options. And that's where it leads to that third step, which is committing to those options. Because you can't just explore and look at it all day long. That's like watching YouTube videos all day long, and then in your life, you're still just as broke as you were last year. By the way, if that's you, you need to start committing to something, right? Like you got to commit. You got to actually start taking action. And so there's people, they start exploring options, say, you know what, I'm liking these few options. Let's do this, this, and this. And they start to do that. They start to commit, get the money out. Then while we're doing that, and they start to build the cash flow, and the cash flow is starting to come in, we also start to do the fourth stage, which is protect their money. Why work so hard and build up all this wealth only to have it taken away in one event? Maybe one medical event happens if you don't have the right kind of health insurance. What if you get into a car accident and that's taken away, right? If you don't have the proper insurances or protection there. What about legal protection, right? Make sure that if you do get sued, your money's protected. You have the right things in place to protect your assets. What about in case of death, life insurance, things like that. All of these things. What about taxes? How to protect your money from losing more money in taxes. All of this stuff, you have to protect your money and your wealth. So then you can do the fifth and final phase, which is my favorite, which is I call the income avalanche. Because as you've now protected your money, you now have been committing to things, you start to get that cash flow rolling in, that cash starts to build in your account, you start throwing that in with the money you've been saving, and then you got more cash to then invest it again. I call it the income avalanche because say you get another passive income of say extra $10,000 a year. Well, the next year that $10,000 goes in, maybe you're saving $10,000 a year, throwing in with your other 10, you got now $20,000 to invest. Maybe that bumps up that $10,000 a year to now $12,000 a year, right? And then you do it again. Maybe it's up to $15,000 a year the next year, and so on and so on. And you keep building and compounding your income. Screw compound interest, compound income to get you there. I had one client that's what he did. He's like, I have a plan to do it by my early 30s. Here's my plan for the next 7 years. He was going to buy just a few properties. He wasn't even going to do different things with lending his money out. He's like, just want to buy a few rentals every year. And then by that point, he had over $4,000 a month. But he also had this life insurance policy that we've set up for him that's very specifically designed that he could get tax-free income for about $10,000 a year on top of it to give him over his $5,000 a month goal. And he's in his 30s. He doesn't have to worry about the crap of like, oh, we're going to have a 10% penalty if I pull out my 401k. He doesn't worry about that because, again, it fits the right plan. And that's the thing. You got those 5-step process. You got that first stage, right? That launch pad. You got to start from where am I? Where am I going? 2, explore options. 3, commit. 4, protect your money along the way. And then 5 is you create the income avalanche towards financial freedom. That is how you do it. Now, if you want to learn more of how to even create that more, go to moneyripples.com. Try that passive income calculator right now to see what's actually possible in your situation today.